Good morning. Such a delight to be here. It is my 9th FII from Riyadh to Miami. And I do want to say, Richard and Cecilia Atias, you have done such a wonderful job. You have implemented His Excellency Yasser El Ramayan's vision and His Royal Highness's as well. I am delighted to have a chance to be part of this conversation with 3 leaders I greatly admire. I've known all 3 of them and had the privilege to work with them on a number of initiatives. I've known His Excellency Khalid Al-Falih for 25 years. I've worked with him when he was the CEO of Aramco, the Energy Minister of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and today as the Minister of Investment. It's great to be with you, and I wanted to start out with you because I think we can all agree, and you heard President Trump talking yesterday about the shift of the kingdom. Extraordinary transformation with Vision 2030 over the last several years. But you in particular now are focused on encouraging partnership and investment within Saudi Arabia. Tell us how you're attracting that kind of capital and those kinds of partnerships.
Well, thank you very much, Dina. It's good to be here. Thank you very much, Richard, and congratulations on a great event and bringing the President of the United States to the FII yesterday was truly phenomenal. Investment has been central to Vision 2030 since it was launched. And His Royal Highness, many of the ministers, me included, are ex-business people who have practiced, as you mentioned, with my own example. But it really permeates in the government of Saudi Arabia, and that everybody is tuned to the need of the business community and investors in particular. The Vision 2030, when it was launched some 8 years ago, many people thought it was too ambitious and it will not be achieved. And of course, for it to be achieved, we had to draw investment in, as well as create indigenous domestic investments from the key players within the investment community. Large corporates, SMEs, SOEs, PIF, which has been playing a key catalytic role. And I'm glad to say that it's working. Our GDP has gone from about 640 billion to 1.1 trillion, leapfrogging in terms of our ranking within the G20. 2 slots, gross capital formation as a measure of investment has almost doubled. And most of that doubling of investment is coming from the private sector. In fact, the government is scaling back its contribution to investment, and we're letting the private sector lead as it should, because one of the pillars of Vision 2030 is to give a bigger role to the private sector. I think one of the most telling success stories is Vision 2030 was underpinned by diversification, decoupling the economy of Saudi Arabia from over-dependence on oil and gas without, of course, abandoning this key resource for the global community. And I'm glad to say that last year, for the first time in our recent history, 53% of our GDP is non-oil. Non-oil has been growing at 4 to 6% year on year since Vision 2030 was launched, irrespective of how the oil markets are doing and how the global market is behaving, of course, with the exception of the brief COVID period. FDI, which I think speaks to the confidence of the global community, has tripled during Vision 2030, where it is versus where it was. I give you some indicators of success. If you look at the number of foreign investors who are licensed, registered, and doing business in Saudi Arabia, it's 40,000. Wow. When we started with Vision 2030, it was less than 8,000, 7,000 to 8,000. We had 5 global multinational companies that called Riyadh their regional headquarters. We just announced that we've crossed the 600 mark, from 5 to 600. Wow. And this is a program that we only launched 3 years ago. So investors are voting with their feet, they're voting with their money. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is today in the ranks of the top 10 global magnets to investors, while of course continuing to deploy capital abroad, because this is part of the DNA of Saudi Arabia.
It's terrific, and you've actually managed to do that in somewhat volatile markets with things going on in the world, and someone that knows something about how to manage that is Ken Griffin. For 35 years, Citadel has been an unbelievable investor, leveraging their expertise in the commodities markets, fixed income, equities, of course, and you really have this breadth of knowledge over many years, many cycles, and within those different products. How are you thinking about today when you're advising your clients in what is a particularly uncertain economic time?
So the economic uncertainty is high, but more problematic is the policy uncertainty is even higher. I was at the PIF conference just a few months ago, and I don't know if you remember this moment, but at the luncheon that you hosted for foreign investors, a topic that came up was the sanctity of law in Saudi Arabia. And the great pride that you had in the administration of law and the neutrality of your court system in arriving at fair adjudications of commercial debates. And as a global investor, that's music to my ears. I want to be involved in deploying capital in countries where I understand both the legal principles and the regulatory principles that will apply to me, and I want to believe that I'll be fairly treated if there's ever a commercial issue that arises. Here in the United States, there is a substantial transformation of our government taking place. Much of this is good. Much of this is important. Much of this is long-needed rationalization of a bureaucracy that became too all-encompassing, too intrusionary in our lives. And I have just tremendous respect for the president and for the members of his cabinet who are working on transforming the US government. But it also means it's a very difficult time to invest because of the policy uncertainty that goes with this transformation. And one of the most difficult areas that we're all trying to navigate is not just the status of tariffs around the world, but who will be an important ally to America going forward, and with whom are we breaking down long-standing relationships. And I really do hope that the administration finds a way to build as many bridges as possible around the world to create pathways for American products, American goods and services. That's very important to how we will successfully invest in the markets, is we can invest when wealth is created. That's the greatest opportunity set for us, is when the amount of wealth in the world increases, that maximizes our opportunity set. So right here, right now, I'm a bit anxious about this sort of sense of a zero-sum game. More for me, less for you, rather than how do we make the pie bigger for everybody around the world. And frankly, America in a world with a growing pie is a country that wins. American innovation is unparalleled around the world. American entrepreneurship is unparalleled around the world. We do best as a country, and we do best for our investors in a growing global economy.
And Ken, do you see it? You said you have a lot of respect for some of the new initiatives, the deregulation, the transformation. Do you also think that, given the debt crisis, that some of the efficiency measures may also have an impact?
Well, I mean, first of all, there's the foundation of the future of our country comes down to our education system.
Yeah.
And that's an area that both, for example, Saudi Arabia, the United States, a number of countries really embrace the importance of education. And this administration's pushback on higher education to focus more on, are we teaching the values of Western culture? Are we ensuring that we are encouraging more STEM graduates? And are we backing away from the woke morass that has engulfed our top institutions? Are we walking away from that? There's a really important transformation here in the United States. And I know there's a lot of skepticism about what will happen to the Department of Education, but if we don't fight for our children to have a better K through K through 12 educational experience, we're going to fall behind in the world in a very profound way. You know that I left the state of Illinois. When I left the state of Illinois, there were 53 schools without a single student at grade level. You cannot compete at the highest ranks in the global economy unless you educate your children. So the Trump administration is going to put a big focus on education over the next 4 years on getting us back to the basics of reading, writing, math, science, and I really hope they're successful with that.
Well, you left the state of Illinois for the state of Florida, and specifically the city of Miami. And by the way, as you are maybe the largest donor to school choice and education initiatives in the country, and I know the mayor is thrilled with how much you're investing here. Mr. Mayor, you've attracted people like Ken, who've really had an impact in Miami. And how is that going for the citizens of the city?
Phenomenally well. No, listen, we try to keep it simple. In my conversations with Ken over the years, I made a promise to him that I make up to all my residents, which is I said, look, we're gonna keep it simple. We're gonna keep taxes low. We're gonna keep people safe, and we're gonna lean into innovation. We're gonna create the most innovative economy in the world. And we're gonna lean into the American experience, American exceptionalism, and American capitalism. And we've done that. I mean, we started recording homicides in 1947. And from 1947 to today, the lowest ever year on record was 24. Last year, we had 27, and we have a lot more people than we did in 1947. I said we would keep taxes low, and we lowered taxes to the lowest level ever. And even though we did that, we have the highest surpluses, we have the highest bond rating ever in the history of the city. So the city's never been more fiscally sound. And then I said we lean into innovation, and we've brought many people like Ken and others. We've moved companies that manage over $12 trillion in assets to our ecosystem. We've increased our venture capital pipeline by over 500%, which means that early stage tech companies are getting the capital they need to grow and scale. And then finally, the last piece is we said we don't want to just be the capital of capital. We want to be the capital of ROT. And ROT means for us return on time. What I've realized is that at some level, when you get to a certain level, the marginal dollar may not be as meaningful. What's really meaningful is how you invest your most precious and finite asset, which is your time. And we want to build an ecosystem that values every single person's time preciously. We call it a Miami for everyone. We want to make sure that everyone in our city has an opportunity to be successful, to be prosperous, and to feel a sense of enrichment. And so some of the things that Ken has helped us with is our public spaces, for example, the Underline. We invested $100 million on the Underline, which is a 10-mile linear park under one of our metro rail systems. We're investing $60 million under another one of our highway systems called the Underdeck. And we have just reinvested $20 million into our third largest park that's going to be next to our newly constructed Inter-Miami soccer stadium. And I know Gianni was here. I don't have a ball to throw to the crowd, but our season starts on Saturday. And of course, we have Messi and Busquets and Jordi Alba and all these incredible players. So in terms of the offering, if you are someone who is thinking about where you want to live, where you want to raise your children, where you want to invest your most precious asset, you're going to look at culture, you're going to look at public spaces, you're going to look at sports, you're going to look at the opportunity to be prosperous. And when you look at an ecosystem that has the lowest unemployment in America, highest median wage growth in America, and is investing so much in its public assets, I don't think there's a better value proposition for anyone as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the mayor's being a bit modest here. What you look for is a government that works.
Yeah.
And the government here in the state of Florida, it works hard for citizens.
Yep.
I'll give you just one soundbite. On election night, we were together.
Yeah.
Our state has no income tax.
I buy his pitch.
You're buying the
Yours is good too. Yours is very good too.
In the state with no income tax, we counted all the votes in 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It took California another 4 to 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. That makes a difference. I know something about that.
Yes, actually, you do know something about this. But it's a testament to a
It really
government
is.
whose entire ethos is We are working for the citizens of this state.
It's so wonderful.
And when you feel that your government has your back, you're much more willing to take steps in building your business to create jobs, to create opportunity, to make investments in factories and people. And it's just a completely different mindset than you find in so many other states.
Well, and at BDT and MSD Partners, we see that with so many founders and families. They are looking for places, frankly, to invest for the future that is just good government. And it's interesting because venues really matter now. I mean, you think about it. President Trump was here yesterday in Miami for the 3rd edition of FIA Miami, and he makes those decisions very strategically. He wanted to say to Princess Rima, Her Highness, to His Excellency Yasser Al-Yaman, to Your Excellency, that this partnership matters. And as you know well, because we had the privilege of working on his first summit in Riyadh 8 years ago, he's looking forward to the second. You at that time, inshallah, you at that time were able, with him and a number of investors in this audience who came to Riyadh, to announce major new bilateral economic partnerships. Are you hopeful that that may happen again? And if so, maybe in what areas, which of the global trends would you be interested in more of those partnerships?
Well, first of all, we have to remember that the relationship goes back 90 years. I mean, Her Royal Highness talked about founding King Abdulaziz and President Roosevelt meeting 80 years ago. But 12 years before that, there was a concession agreement for the world's biggest natural resource endowment, you know, with this, with SoCal at that time, which is the Chevron of today. And the benefits to both countries from that kind of partnership that has lasted so long is quite obvious. That, of course, continued with banks coming into the kingdom, with petrochemical companies like Exxon, Dow, and many others. Education, as mentioned by Princess Rima, was also a key to the links that make Saudi Arabia and the US so compatible in how we do business, how we work, how we collaborate. But the world is also moving, and every time there is a major shift, you find new bridges being built between our two countries. And indeed, 8 years ago, there were some announcements at that time in defense, for example, which is keeping the world a better place today as the Middle East experiences some of the tensions that we have experienced. There were announcements in infrastructure that also have been quite good to all stakeholders in the US and Saudi Arabia. And there were major investments by Aramco and SABIC and Motiva and petrochemical plants. But also we've seen massive investments from the US enterprises into Saudi Arabia. I can tell you that today of our FDI, 25% is from one country, and that's the United States of America. His Excellency Jadaan mentioned in Davos that we already have over $750 billion of different types of investments in the US. So it is natural that as this great relationship is reinvigorated between President Trump and His Majesty King Salman and His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman, that they will be redirecting of energy partnerships and significant capital to the areas of future growth. And of course, you can't talk about the areas of transformation and future growth without talking about technology, AI, and the infrastructure that is needed around the world. And when you think where the demographics of the world is today, a lot of it will be in the neighborhood where Saudi Arabia is the center. So as a country that is correcting north and south, east and west, we're going to do that with digital and AI. And you will find the kingdom building the smartest infrastructure for AI and attracting all of the AI players as well as the developers of the applications that will enable the prosperity, the productivity, not just in the major developed economies in the US, but in the Middle East, in Africa, in Asia, with the connectivity, with the access to the lowest cost, least emission energy sources so this is big, but also food security is big in Saudi Arabia, and we're going to work with enterprises from around the world. But I would just say that the degree of participation of US enterprises over the last 90 years in Saudi Arabia is massive. It continues to be a major trade partner. As I mentioned, in terms of investment, it's huge in the kingdom. And our global investing, when we look, like many other investors, when we look where to invest, the US comes always high as the top investment destination. So expect that great relationship between America and Saudi Arabia to get stronger as we go forward.
That's great. Just time for a couple quick questions. Ken, I've heard you talk about the impact that technology and AI may have on investing and how to think about it, but also productivity. Maybe just your perspective on what this transformation may bring. I know a number of your clients think about it in terms of potentially lowering the workforce, potentially creating new jobs. As we think about the title of this panel, a purpose-driven economy, how does AI and maybe technology impact that in your opinion?
So I think AI has been very powerful in elevating the role of your chief information officer or your chief technology officer within an organization. And whether or not AI becomes a way that you create meaningful productivity uplift is sort of beside the point. The big picture is there is a substantial increase in investment by American business in the use of digitalization and technology, again, to increase productivity. And the one area that the Trump administration is spot on right about is that we have to grow our economy. You know, you talk about investing with a purpose. A nation that's rich in financial resources and a nation that's rich in intellectual capital is a nation that can solve any problem. If you lack either of those two, you are truly rudderless. So the focus in America on increasing productivity is spot on the right focus. And the elevation of technology, whether it be AI or other more conventional tools in the C-suite, which is happening right here, right now, is a really important key to unlocking a productivity boom in America.
Absolutely. You can already see that happening in their focus on it as well. So last word to the mayor of Miami. A year from now, when we're at FII number 4 in Miami, who will have won the biggest matches? Matches, the soccer matches. And what will be the big topic for next year?
I don't know. Gianni's in the front row, so maybe he can answer that question.
Put him on the spot.
If you ask my 11...
Or your son. Who's your son?
If you ask my 11-year-old, who made me stay up till, you know, late in the night to watch a preseason Inter Miami game because he was convinced that they were going to score in overtime, which, by the way, they did. You know, they won the most games last year, or the most points, and hopefully they win the championship this year. American soccer is a little different than European soccer, where you can win the most points and still have to go to some tournament and a championship. So we have to work all that out, Gianni. But so that'll be that. What was the second question?
What do you think will be the big topic a year from now?
You know, it's interesting. It seemed like 2 or 3 years, the big topic was crypto. It was crypto. Everywhere you went, crypto, crypto, crypto. And that now, obviously, the big topic is artificial intelligence. The one I start hearing more percolation is artificial intelligence with combined with robotics and robots. So maybe robots that are able to do certain things that they weren't able to do just a year ago. Maybe that becomes a hot next topic.
Great. Well, thank you, all three of you. Thank you so much for this great conversation. Wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much, Dina. I love the emphasis on education and, of course, investing with purpose. Thank you so much. And as Ken said, operating from a mindset of abundance and not a zero-sum game. I'm going to ask His Excellency and the Mayor stay on stage, and I'm going to ask Her Royal Highness Ambassador Rima Bandar Al Saud to come on stage for a very special announcement. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It seems like it was just yesterday when I was in Riyadh announcing that FII was coming to Miami. And in line with that global partnership and in line with the city's emphasis on being the capital of capital and strengthening its ties to countries in the Middle East, today we're making another special announcement. Today we're announcing that the Ministry of Investment of Saudi Arabia is opening an Invest Saudi office here in the city of Miami to invest regionally. Take it away.
Well, Mayor Suarez, first of all, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for believing in the kingdom. The mayor has been coming for a number of years. I met him for the first time in Jeddah, then we went to Riyadh. He met His Royal Highness, and he's been a regular visitor and a believer in Saudi Arabia and our equity story and investment and otherwise. But he's also demonstrated to us what leadership is like at a city level. And he talked, I think, very eloquently and very passionately during the panel about what he believes in and what drives him every day to make Miami the great city it has become under his leadership. So I'd like to give him a round of applause. But he also extended a very strong invitation for the FII first, and then to us in Invest Saudi to use Miami as a gateway not only to the US, given the strong participation of owners of capital, innovation, and the great minds that are flocking to call Miami home, but we've also discovered by coming here regularly to meet with him and to see what Miami is like, is Miami is also a good gateway to South America, not just to North America. So by selecting Miami as our second office for Invest Saudi after Washington, where we're under the good care of Her Royal Highness, Princess Rima, we're opening new pathways for inbound investment into the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but also for facilitating outbound investment, because as I mentioned a few minutes ago, the kingdom will continue to be a global investor as part of our strategy, as part of our ethos to stay more integrated, more connected with the global economy than ever. And we are proud and delighted and confident that this office, once it's open, is going to be a key link for all of you investors from around the world into the kingdom, but also for us to know about the opportunities that are open through Miami. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
On behalf of the FII and being the board member, it always gives us great pleasure to be the place where announcements like this are made. It is truly an organization that connects the world to the world. And as an ambassador, sir, I'm so honored to have Miami be our second city. And it's a real pleasure to be here with you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll get a group photo.